Welcome back to another episode of 365 Unlimited. We are back with another interview, an 815 guy. Excited to chop it up with Kendal Parker. He is the head coach of a football team, Peoria Heights Patriots. Excited to hear his story. But before we dive into his story, please continue to like, view, and subscribe everything within our channel, social media, all that. We appreciate your continuous feedback that we receive. It helps us grow, helps us change, helps us alter things, and we become better for it. So we appreciate that. Also, check out our three sponsors: Driftless Quality Wear, Bocker Auto Group, and Not Vintage. That is KNOT Vintage. You can find the website online and go shopping. I'm telling you, if I had more money than I do right now, not being a broke college student, I'd probably be buying more T-shirts. Using that code 365U for 10% off at the checkout. Don't hesitate. Dopest graphic tees you can find. All right, Gannon, let's get it.
Yeah, we got another Freeport guy on here. It's going to be a good episode of recording I'm looking forward to. We always ask guests to kind of just introduce themselves, tell a little bit about them, and just break down who Kendall is before we get into this episode.
Yeah, bet, man. I saw Kendal Parker. Grew up, born and raised Freeport, Illinois. Went to Freeport High School, graduated, played football, wrestled there. Played college football at Aurora University. My wife also went to Freeport. Ended up going to Bradley University once I graduated, moved down here. Got into coaching in probably the most craziest way anybody ever heard of, getting a haircut to get back into the game that I love. Been head coach now for 3 years. Got the job really right as COVID got shut down. Had the interview, got the job. Then the next day they said, "Hey, we shutting down." That's a crazy way to get your first head coaching job and to start off. Trying to jump through those hurdles, but yeah, it's been really good, man. It's been a blessing. I've been coaching. I'm the head football coach and head wrestling coach. Been coaching both of those now, total for 5 years. So it's been really dope and a blessing, man, just to kind of grow into the sport. Football and wrestling molded me into the man I am now, and now being able to do that with other young men and women to kind of help grow them to be the best they can be. It's been amazing.
I like that. I like that answer. And you talk about wrestling, football, being able to mold you into the man you are today. Let's throw it back a little bit. Talk about your experiences as an 815 guy going to Freeport. Talk about your experiences with Freeport High School and just the overall atmosphere and uh, effectiveness that it has kind of allowed you to become who you are today. Just speak on it a little bit.
Yeah, man. I mean, I love Freeport. I mean, that's all I knew. And it's so different being down here because you have so many options to choose from. I mean, there's 6, 7, 8 high schools just in one area. Whereas in Freeport, if you was a Freeport cat, unless you was going to Akron, it was Freeport. Everybody knew you was going to high school. So that was kind of like, that's what you knew. It was amazing, molded me. I mean, most of my best friends I've had friends from when I from 6 that I still talk to this day. And it was amazing. I mean, growing up there, just kind of knowing everybody knowing you. Like Gannon said, I had Gannon's mom growing up, and just being able to kind of see now, being a adult man, seeing young kids that I knew when they were little babies, and now they coming through high school and seeing them play ball and not play sports and graduate. It's great to be in a community where everybody's so close and everyone knows each other. And that definitely helped me. My uncle was head of food service for a while, so he always had a thumb on me, and my pops was janitor at Lincoln Douglas, so he always knew everybody from time to time. So growing up in Freeport, it was crazy because it was so small, but so like now that I've seen real small towns kind of around here, it ain't as small as I thought it was, but it was small to me just thinking about Chicago and Rockford and how just kind of close knit communities can be. So I loved it. It was something that molded me and definitely that toughness is kind of where it really came for me. Like going through Freeport, you got to be tough because whether it's in sports or in life, like that's a bigger school. That's 1,000 kids in a school. Whereas my school, we got 2,200 total. So like those kids don't understand that mentality of like, hey, you got to go get it. There's people who want to take your spot. Like your best friend want to take your spot. You know what I'm saying? Like you gotta really go get it. And that kind of helped build me as I left high school, went to college, went to the working world. Everything I do, I understand like you got to go get it. You got to make your mark the best way you can.
Kind of just interesting tidbit, wrestling and football in high school and now at the job wrestling and football. Kind of talk about that culmination and being able to stick with the two sports that kind of got you rooted, but being able to do that and then shape these young, individuals' lives. It's got to be a pretty cool, fulfilling moment and full circle thing.
Yeah, man, it's dope because it's actually crazy because Dedmond, like I said, everybody know Dedmond.
Yeah.
That's the GOAT. I remember when I was wrestling for him, he always told me you're gonna be a teacher, and I told him that's never gonna happen. I can't be broke and be a teacher. I gotta make this money. I tell him all the time, I gotta make money and I can't deal with people's kids. Those are two things I can't. Like I'm not doing it. But once I got into coaching turned me into teaching. I was working as a pricing analyst, so I was just doing like accounting paperwork for a telecommunications company. And after I got into coaching, it was just like, all right, I'm missing things because I got to work and I can't always be with the kids. Like they got summer camp in the morning, I'm at work. And I was just I felt like I was missing part of it. So they told me I had the opportunity to get into teaching a little bit. So I took a job at a school and I was teaching and doing that. And then that got me to my school because we were co-opted. And it kind of worked out. I kind of did football and wrestling both for free starting off. I was a big person that was saying, hey, every opportunity is not going to have a price tag to it. If you try to take every opportunity for the money, you're never going to get your big break. Because again, I know who I am and I know what I bring and what I offer. So if I get into the door, it's over, it's wraps. So I was like, and once they let me to the door, it kind of was just off and rolling. Coach told me that he was going to kind of mirror with me side by side with the linemen. After day one, he let me be by myself. And then wrestling was the same thing. He was like, you can help out a little bit. After a couple of weeks, it was like, hey, go ahead, run practice. It's just one of those things. Like once you let me get my foot in the door, it's time to go. So it was kind of crazy how that worked out. It kind of helped me be with my two loves again, because once you stop being an athlete, because it ends for everybody at some point in
Yeah.
time, rather you stop in high school, stop in college, go to the league, it ends at some point. And that little party, you always think, one, you can still play, and two, that is never going in. And now it's like instead of playing, I get to coach. And like honestly, I almost feel like I take it harder as a coach than I do as a player. Cause like you can see how much work they put in, and it's just like, man, like you want it so bad for them. Or you see how the potential they could be, and they aren't working enough to get to that potential. And it's like, man, if you just knew how close you were, like how much harder you would work. And I think that's why I take it almost harder as a coach than I did as a player, because I could push myself, but like now I can't forcibly push them past the point they don't want to go. I think that's what makes me kind of take it harder sometimes.
Bingo. I mean, I think the whole answer to that question, you could really just cut that right there and be like, okay, that's going on social media, just because that answer's key. I mean, in the sense that, yeah, you can push these kids as hard as you want as a coach, but obviously there's gonna be parts in sports where they got to take themselves there. And based on the answer that you gave to that question from Gannon, obviously you could tell you're a leader. I mean, if coaches are putting you in a spot where they're going to mirror you or watch you, and then next thing you know, free reign. So speak on that for a little bit, or I guess in a question sense, how did you kind of develop that leadership mentality, or over time? Obviously, I know sports kind of ingrained that within us when we're growing up and we're athletes, but becoming a coach, how have you taken that from being an athlete and taking it into the coaching world and kind of utilizing that leadership you have for your athletes?
So really, how it started for me was, I was a very I was a late bloomer, you would say, growing up. Not weight wise, I was a very big kid. I was give you the truth, I was like 205 pounds as a fourth grader. Give you an idea. So I was that big kid that kind of was they would call soft growing up. And when I got into junior high, that's when I first started getting to lifting. And it was me and my best friend Darian Johnson, who graduated from Freeport, played at Quincy, had a partial there, was a two-time all-conference defensive end at Quincy. Um, Me and him would just compete every single day. We go, they let eighth graders start working out. We get up in the morning, it'd be before school, and we get up about 5:30 in the morning, and like it was like, hey, bro, we're good friends, but you ain't gonna be better than me. And that started that competition. And then
Mm-hmm.
from that competition through high school, it was like all the time it's like, man, I want to be the best. Like I want to change my body from what I was to what I can be. And that kind of turned me into just like a natural, just I'm going all the time. It was just constant like intrinsic motivation to constantly keep working from where I was to where I want to be. And it just started stacking. And when I saw the progress coming in as freshman year and now getting to be on JV, and then my sophomore year getting to start at left tackle on varsity, I saw that what that work meant and how it kind of came full circle. And that is really when I start honing in on my leadership ability and trying to push people to kind of be the best they can be, because I'm pushing myself every day. It's almost like pushing them to help push me. Is what it kind of became. And that's kind of how it kind of molded myself, because I had to continue to lead myself. And from leading myself made me want to lead others. And then from that mentality, I kind of just took that through college and through really coming out of college, because once I got back to the game, I took a year off after graduating. I'm like, man, I miss football. And that fire started coming back. And as soon as you leave that field and the first time coming back, and any aspect, you just feel it all rush back at one time. It never leaves you, it just comes back. And as soon as I started coaching, it was just like, it just started clicking. Like everything started clicking so fast. And it was just like, man, like I feel like I never left. And like just seeing the kids down here, and like it's crazy athletes down here, man. Like, I mean, Freeport got crazy athletes too. I'm not saying one's better than the other, but it's like just being able to see raw athletes and being able to mold them, I think that's just motivates me. It's like, man, your body frame is this. What can we do to maximize that and now turn you into B? And it's amazing to kind of see it. And I think that's what pushes me. And using my abilities to kind of motivate and drive people is really kind of how I kind of circulate my leadership approach, really.
So you kind of been on both sides of it, playing high school and collegiate sports, and then now being 3 years as a head coach. What do you kind of think would be the, I don't know, it's like two-sided question, some advice that you would maybe give yourself as if you could go back, kind of starting out seeing yourself as a coach, and then also what's maybe the biggest thing you learned over your maturation going from that playing to the coaching side?
Man, that's a good question. I'll probably say, like, if I could tell myself something off rip, is just to rely on other people more. Again, I had that go get it mentality where I don't care what's going to happen, I'm going to make it happen. And being a head coach, it all comes at you really fast. I mean, there's everything from the paperwork side to the strategic side to the actual X and O side, offense, defense, special teams. And I was trying to just tackle it all at one time. Because in my mind, I would think, hey, if I mess up, I'm cool with that. I'm human. I know I am. But if somebody else mess up, I can't control that. So I wanted to kind of have my hand in everything. And it took me a year of being super stressed, being 26 with gray hairs, realizing that I got to be able to give some of the reins up and let my other coaches, who are great football minds in themselves, kind of give them more responsibilities, and give them different tasks and make them feel kind of more invested into the program. And that'll probably be the one thing I'll give myself, just kind of advice going into head coaching.
I think kind of to piggyback off of Gannon's question with that, I was thinking about, so obviously being an athlete to being a coach now, understanding the sport and all of that, kind of explain to me in a way, what is the difference between, so being an athlete, obviously you go through the recruiting process to get to college. Now you're coaching athletes that are in the recruiting process trying to get to college. So how have you taken that mentality of you going through the recruiting process to now trying to help your athletes get to the next level? How have you kind of just describe both, I guess, in a manner, and the differences between them, and advice even to some kids that are in the middle of it right now?
Yeah. So when I was going to get recruited, it was kind of still those earlier stages of coaches kind of being like the huddle part. Huddle was kind of like right just starting to launch and get big. So we made a huddle tape, put it out, got the music in the background, had Kanye Power. I thought that was the best background you could have in a highlight video. I still pull it up on sometimes to
Oh,
show my
got
students
to.
my highlight tape. I still
Oh
pull it
yeah.
up, let them know I still got it every once in a
Yeah.
while, man. But made it. Actually, Coach Cooner, Brock, I grew up with him, and just him being around, and he actually made it for me. He had just got done playing at Whitewater, and he was in the building at that time, and he helped me make it. And so that kind of getting that out, and I kind of let the coaches did more for us then, as far as like the coaches kind of came in and we talked to them, and then we set up stuff kind of out of school from there. So that's kind of how that went. And I talked to a couple schools, and kind of it just kind of stuck on Aurora, just because Unfortunately, I didn't really have a way to get to the other schools that want to recruit me as far as a ride, and I just really never reached out to anybody to get rides. So that was the only school I went to, so that's where I went. But now with my kids now, we really do a good job at trying to get them exposed. A lot it's different because a lot of my kids aren't natural football players. So my school is more of a baseball school. They won state in baseball in 2017. Had a couple kids go out and play at Southern and a lot of other schools. So baseball is kind of the dominant sport there, and we actually don't have for the last about 5 6 years a junior high or a small kids football team. So a lot of the kids that are coming in are like, I never played football before, so I'm recruiting them to even play before even thinking about trying to play in college football. I'm more recruiting them just to try football, which is kind of like our biggest hurdle as a program that we have to face year by year. Is that these kids more than not don't want to play football or haven't been exposed to football. So trying to play college football is foreign to them. But now, as I have kids who've gone through the program for a couple of years, I got a couple who now want to play college football or at least interested in playing it. So I reach out to schools, and I'm a very honest person with it. Again, all a man got is his word. So I don't try. I'm not going to reach out to Alabama for my 5'10" middle linebacker that runs a 5'3" 40. Like that's just not happening on the cards. You know what I'm saying? But I meet with the kids and I kind of tell them my honest review of where I think they can go based off of just what I've seen and the numbers. And I mean, obviously, I tell them like, hey, if you think you can go higher, I'm gonna help you and support you anyway. But this is just where I think you will fit, and it's not a bad thing. A good thing is just, bro, sometimes genetics just ain't on your side. And I try to get their name out. I reach out to schools. I call them. Every summer, I take my football boys to a college visit. Last year, we went to Knox College because it's close. 2 years ago, we went to Monmouth College because that's close as well. And I try to take them to different schools just to expose them because a lot of these kids never saw college before, don't know what college looks like. So just exposing them to something different because I knew I wanted to go to college to play football. Everything else about college, I didn't care about. Like going into college, I didn't know what the dorms were going to look like. I didn't know what the classes was going to look like. I knew I was going to play football and I'll get a degree in business because business means money and I want to make money. So I like
Yeah.
exposing them to the other parts of college that they'll have to understand going into college if they're going to be an athlete is something that I try to do as well because I think that will be the most important part because you want that degree at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
That's huge. I mean, just being able, like you said right there, to touch on these kids that never even maybe set foot on a college campus or even think that college is, in their future. And maybe just that time or that, hour or two on a visit when you take your kids that boom, hey, this is a reality. This is a possibility. Something can happen. But another question is mine. Now, wrestling and football are very, I'd say, similar in determination and just the mental toughness. And a lot of it, obviously, I haven't really played both of those two. That's more of what you played growing up. Kind of talk about that to relationship being a multi sport athlete growing up and just the importance of not specializing.
Yeah. So I played everything growing up, man. I tell kids all the time, man. I'm a jackass of all trades. I tell them I
Yeah.
played. I did what? I did basketball growing up. I did football growing up. Obviously, wrestling, football, wrestling, baseball. Played baseball through seventh grade, through track, seventh, eighth, freshman year, senior year. Um, Play ultimate frisbee. I was literally in everything. My parents were big into, hey, you never get to come home after school. You're gonna be in a sport of some sort, some activity, whether it was a group or something. I was in it, and that definitely did help me out. Wrestling probably helped me out a ton on football. 'Cause again, I didn't start wrestling until seventh grade. That was the first year I switched from playing basketball to wrestling. I tell the kids all the time I was a basketball player back in the day. I got my first place trophy from first grade. I was getting carried by all these hoopers. I was like the ninth man on the bench. Also got a first place baseball trophy for being the batting eighth. But definitely was batting eighth and playing right field. So that tells you what you need to know in Little League. Um, how good of a player I was, man. But wrestling and football, once I got connected with those two and really invested, that's really what changed my athletic path. I remember to this day, again, Dedmond is ingrained in me. He's really like another
Yep.
father to me. I can tell you stories and stories of that man and how he pretty much saved me. But I remember I was wrestling my freshman year, and I dabbled 7th and 8th grade, but freshman year is when I really started going. And it was New Year's. I decided to skip practice and go to a New Year's party at one of my friends' house, and we go and wrestle at this big tournament. And I end up getting beat by this scrub. I mean, buddy was not good. I get off the mat, and Dedmond he giving it to me. Can't say the words on your podcast 'cause I want to keep it clean, but just know he gave it to me good. And I remember my parents are right behind him, and I'm thinking, man, if anybody gonna save me from this situation, from this grown man yelling and cussing me out, it'll be my parents. And they both looking at me like, no, he right. And that's when I really knew, like, okay, like I need to invest in this sport a little bit because this man's investing in me and what it can become. And once I understood wrestling, understood like how body shifts and how you can move and momentum and stuff like that. Once I got on the football field and having to block somebody and starting to feel their weight shift, that's when I knew I could move them or where to move them or how to move them. And being able to have balance and have quick feet and just how to move quickly. I mean, I think that was just things that kind of helped me be a better athlete in my other sport based off of the sport that I did. And just kind of pairing those together made me to become a more holistic athlete. And I think when you specialize, one, just from a muscular standpoint, you aren't differentiating the muscle that you're using. So like with pitchers or baseball players, you're throwing nonstop. I mean, sooner or later, that muscle gives out. Or if you're, a basketball player, you're jumping a million times in the year because you're playing basketball and you're just constantly making jump shots. Sooner or later, as a young kid, those muscles wear out because you're not giving yourself rest. But if you can specialize and you can, me not specialize, but if you can like differentiate yourself and play different sports, I feel like that helps your body heal a little bit more. And also it helps your body learn different things that you can now bring to that new sport and kind of make you better at. And also on top of that, I tell kids in a small school setting, it's definitely important. 'Cause I tell the kids with football starts the school year, and if the football season goes well, every other sport goes well. If you look at all the schools, no matter where they're at, their football team does well. Another sport in that school is going to do well that year.
Yeah.
You can almost look at the statistics, and I'll bet my year's salary on that. That if a football team does well, odds are the rest of the season's going to go well. I mean, you look at East St. Louis won state, their basketball team was in the top 4 in the state. Metamora makes playoffs, basketball team wins state. You know what I'm saying? Like football starts the entire thing out. We're the people that brings out football cross country. And everybody, whether or not you like football or not, football is going to be the main show on Friday nights. And if you start the school year off right with football booming, everything else going to boom right after. And you stay with that same group in a small school, and that's how you grow. Because I played football with certain people, and then I would wrestle with those same people. And it's like we just getting closer and closer, and we learn each other's bodies and learn each other how they think more and more, and learning those qualities they got more and more. And sooner or later, like by your senior year, like it's automatic. Like I could be on the field with my buddy Malik, and Malik ended up playing at UAB down in Alabama, and I knew what Malik was going to do like this without even looking at him because I've wrestled with him. I've trained with him. I walked with him, ate with him for 4 years in multiple sports. And now it's like, dang, like it's poetry in motion. So that's why I think it's important to not specialize, honestly.
Yeah, that might be the most in-depth answer we've gotten for multi-sport athletes. I think it's
Because we've asked it a lot.
oh, we have. We do every time
Yeah.
because
And we usually get the same old, but not this.
no, that was in-depth, and I appreciate you for it because I think especially in today's society, because I'd say within like the last maybe 5 to 7 years, I think multi-sport athletes were still pretty relevant, but now it's like not only is the dip in multi-sports going lower and lower, but it's just the overall kids going out for sports in general is dipping. And it's tough to see, it's rough to see it, but obviously everyone's going to make their own decision. But I like the point how you make where you talk about just the fact that like if you're participating in multiple sports, the movements, the muscle groups, like the recovery, all of that intertwines together and it makes you a more well-rounded foundational athlete. And that is just the thing that we try to hit on and the answer we try to get out of people. And you gave it all to us. And I appreciate, like, it gets me fired up thinking about it because I know Gannon and myself both being multi-sport athletes growing up, like we wouldn't be successful without it. Like I wouldn't have been good at this if I wasn't working on that. So that's something that I value very much. But while you were answering that question, I want to ask you, because I don't think we've really asked anybody this question. As a coach, What is your advice to your athletes off the field? We talk about all the advice you can give to athletes on the field, preparing them to be better athletes, better humans on the field. But what is your advice to kids off the field? When they leave you after practice, what do you want to make sure that those athletes are still doing and holding themselves accountable for?
Yeah, man. I mean, one, being a student athlete, I think the dopest thing about our last season, we didn't get a single win last football season. I mean, I tell you right now, we didn't get a single win. I mean, it was a lot of tough ride homes. But one thing we did do, we didn't have a single kid ineligible. So I had 25 kids on my football team, and not a single kid hit the ineligibility list last year. So like as a coach and as a teacher, because I teach as well. Like I don't just coach, I teach business class. So I teach accounting, finance, entrepreneurship, stuff like that. And as a teacher and a coach, like being able to have my student athletes be student athletes, I think that's dope. Definitely when you're at a school where you're not just building powerhouse football players. These cats ain't about to go play D1 AA college ball or you know what I'm saying, BCF bowl. So I think that's one of the things I tell them. Is just bro, grades are very important. And then another part is just to enjoy high school. I feel like we're so caught up, definitely coaches, that pride thing with specialization has come kind of coaching pride because every coach don't want to lose their athlete. You know, that coach that has that baseball player, that's amazing. They don't want to lose that baseball player to a football team or lose them to the basketball team. And a lot of coaches kind of get stuck on having that kid be that on that team because they're going to lose them. Telling the kids to have fun and enjoy high school and enjoy all the things you can do in high school. Because if you decide college sports is for you and you only get to do one sport, it gets sad sometimes, man. I missed wrestling in college. When wrestling season came and I'm hearing about this tournament, that tournament back home, I missed it. And I think that's one thing that you want to tell your kids to enjoy high school, enjoy this time, enjoy the sports, enjoy the dances, enjoy the clubs, enjoy just being a kid. Like don't worry about all the grown stuff until you grown, because the quicker you grown, the longer you grown. So like
It's
just
coming.
enjoy it a little bit.
That's real. That the
Yeah,
quicker you're
it's
growing.
coming. Like that's the thing. You got to realize it's a sports at the end of the day. There's way more bigger obstacles and stuff that we're gonna face down the road, as Bryce and I are seeing now, getting towards the end of our college life. But we got to give the man some flowers. He's been on the podcast before, Anthony Dedmond. I know you brought his name up multiple times on here. Grew up with Major since we were 4 or 5 years old, going to the Roscoe Rush football games. I mean, they're one of the best families ever. I love them to death. But just talk about what Anthony has meant to you and some of that growing up, just being a father figure to you.
Man, yeah, Devin, man, he's a guy. So I still
Special.
talk to him to this day. I mean, like I said, without him, I mean, I don't do a lot of things that I did, or become what I become as an athlete, as a person in general. I mean, he gives everything to any person who crosses his path. I mean, and it's genuine too. That's the thing, and it's forever. If you down with him, if you one of his guys, he will be your guy forever. We've had plenty of breakfasts where he take me out to eat. We've had plenty of times he's taken to the Roscoe Rush games. He'd take me out to go eat. He said, "Man, if you with Devin, you eating. If you ain't got it, I got you." And
Yeah.
that's just something. He'd give me a ride. I lived farther than he did from the school, but he would purposely leave his house as close to the school, grab me, and take me where I needed to be. Because he cared. I mean, and why would he care for somebody, like me? What did I do to deserve him doing this? Because he just wanted to. And I definitely, and I give it up to him daily. That is that is that is a dude right there. I mean, I can't say enough about who he is. And Major, I mean, Major
Yeah.
growing up, a little Major almost choked me on the back seat. That's my little man. I'll support that kid to be done. Being able to watch him grow and be able to just see kind of how they grew together. It's just
It's
it's
crazy.
been dope to see. It's been really dope to see Major from when I first made it to state as a little freshman at AU State down in Springfield, him running with me and just, being happy to be called my brother by some random guy because he's running next to me, to now I'm like, man, I'm just happy to be associated, to say I know Major Devin because that boy balling,
Yeah.
and man, and the man he's become. I mean, both of them are just dope human beings who give, I mean, they give their all, the whole family.
Yeah.
Ricky, his wife, I mean, she sacrificed a lot to let her husband do and all these things for all these different people and leave the house, man. I mean, the whole Dedmond family, I mean, they great people.
Incredible. Incredible.
I second all of that. I mean, I personally went to Akron High School, but the last couple of years being able to understand who Dedmond is more on and off the field, I mean, I got no bad things to say. I love that man. I honestly everything that he does for athletes on and off the field, it's rare and it doesn't happen often across the nation. It doesn't happen. What he's willing and able to do, it's sacrifice. It's really what it is, and it's special to see. I admire it, and I hope one day that I can be just like that. And I'm assuming you, Kendall, that's I mean that's what you learned. It's what you want to do, and I'm sure you're the exact same way, just based on what you learned from a guy like that. But honestly, I don't think I have any more questions. I want to ask you because we wrap up every interview. Unless Gannon, you got anything else you want to throw out there?
No, fire away.
All right, so we kind of wrap up with just asking for advice for ourselves because Gannon and myself being young adults, we still want to learn. Obviously, we got a lot to learn. Gannon mentioned almost done with college. Couple more days, couple more weeks, couple more months.
It's coming. It's coming quick,
We'll
man.
get there. We'll get there. But yeah. So, do you have any advice for us? Not only just as a podcast, but just as human beings,
Young
and
coaches. We're both wanting to coach too as we get older. So
yeah,
please.
anything
Yeah,
you got.
man. My best advice, man, just take that time out of college to just live, man. Like everybody thinks you got to have this plan put together, that plan put together, and honestly, it all comes together in God's time. Like you will figure out what you need to do when it's time for you to do it. Don't look at what other people is doing as a check mark or a box of where you need to be at. Just be comfortable where you're at, and it all falls together. With coaching, I would just say find a spot that best fits who you are, because a lot of people want to be a part of just this a booming winning program right away, not have to worry about the lumps, not have to worry about all the extra stuff. But if that don't fit your personality, you ain't gonna like it there. You have to be with a program that's going to best fit you and grow you.
Hmm.
Because it's humbling having to go and be on a team where, man, like we're probably not about to win this year, man. Like it don't matter how you scheme, it don't matter what you think you know, no matter what. You could be Bill Belichick out there, but if you don't got the players, you ain't gonna win. But you are winning because you got young men out there who, apart from you, would probably have dropped out of school. But because you are investing in them,
Exactly.
now they're becoming X, Y, and Z. And some people can't handle that. Like that's some people need to be a part of a winning program, and that's okay too. But understanding where you need to be at and what special gifts you have, and how you can use those gifts to kind of now use them to the best of their ability. I think it's kind of like the best advice I can give somebody going into coaching and going into life past college, because that limbo between college and adulthood, that weird couple years after college, it's like it's strange. You're trying to grasp yourself of what it means to be a man, an adult, and now it's like, man, like where do I go from here? But really, it's you just keep moving, keep going, and the best situation will fall in your lap. And once you get there, just continue to work, and everything falls in place.
It's awesome. Yeah. Um, there's just so many angles that I got right now going through this. Being a Freeport guy, seeing this, seeing you being an older guy that has gone through Freeport, graduated, now is coaching, like just as a role model there. The Dedmond angle, like there's just so many different rushes of emotion right now. That's really cool at this time of the episode. Which will we give our flowers? But like I want to give the flowers to you because there's so many different things when you talk about Dedmond. Like you can almost feel it like I'm talking to Dedmond, but it's not because I'm talking to you right here. But it's just there's just certain ways of when you're talking and when you're saying certain things, you can see that was implemented in him, that was implemented in you, and now you're going to keep doing it onto this next generation. I think that's the coolest thing from this, and just keep going. Best of luck. Same thing as that you said to us. Same thing to you going forward. You're doing it the right way. It's about affecting these kids' lives and everything else other than the 60 minutes or the 50 minutes, whatever it is that's on the court or the field, whatever it is. But this was a really cool episode. We got to see an athlete and a coach perspective kind of meshed in one. Like Bryce was saying, we haven't really been able to do this with a younger coach, probably our youngest head coach that we've had on here on the podcast. It was a really unique angles that we were able to kind of combine together, and you did it well, man. Shout out to you, and it was a dope recording. I really liked it.
Hey man, appreciate y'all having me on, man. Like I say, yeah, I tune in and watch you guys on YouTube, man. Y'all doing amazing things, man. I mean, in a couple years, what y'all gonna become, I mean, I think it's gonna be something that's really dope for our area. Definitely. I mean, you guys spotlight a lot of people, man, and y'all just do it for the love, which is really cool and really dope. And I think you guys will definitely you'll get recognition from that, just that love and why you're doing it. I think it's amazing.
I appreciate that,
Appreciate that.
and I second it all back to you. I mean, like Gannon said, the effectiveness that you're having on these kids, athletes or not, just being in that school, being a teacher, being a coach, it all relates to allowing these kids to grow into who they're meant to be in a positive light. And to see you fulfilling that, uh, enjoying it and thriving in it, it's special and it's awesome to see, awesome to watch, awesome to hear. So thank you for telling your story. I know Gannon and myself always, like you talk about us giving love to the community. It's love right back to us, just in the sense that we love to hear stories. Like, because there is success in our area, there's success outside of our area, and we love to hear it all because everyone has a voice and they're meant to share it. So to hear your voice tonight, hear you speak on your story, it's valuable. It means something and it will impact people, and it already has. But thank you very much once again. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Keep tapping in. We got some more interviews coming. Probably going to sit down and talk NFL free agency, NFL draft stuff here in a couple weeks. But keep tapping in. We appreciate you.
Peace. Appreciate you.